Hey guys, it's Kat and I am back today with a review. Now I'm not sure if I'm just going to test this out and let you know what I think, or if I'm going to try to make this a 1 week, 1 palette review. We'll see. I just want to see how this turns out before I commit to working on it for a week. This is a very exciting release. This is the first release from HINDASH. So if you're not familiar, HINDASH is a makeup artist, very popular on Instagram and YouTube. I follow him. I think he's amazing. He does really gorgeous work because his background is actually in painting. So I think he's got just an eye for being able to sculpt faces and make things look more beautiful than they are naturally. He's just an awesome makeup artist. So when he brought out a palette, I was like, okay, firstly, I'm really excited. But secondly, he actually watches beauty news, which I was mind blown about. So he actually sent a palette to myself and Haley. So I was sent this. I do have some information. I do have a beautiful handwritten note, which is really sweet. I have a little thing saying the Beautopsy of Kat. That's me. That's so cool. And I've got some information about the palette too. So I'll show you the palette. It's the Beautopsy palette. If I haven't said, it's upside down, but we'll open it and I'll show it to you. So firstly, I love the box and everything. It's sort of high quality enough, but also minimal enough, if that makes sense. It's all cardboard. It looks like it's going to be easy to recycle, or you can sort of, I don't know what you'd want to keep in there. Money box. Maybe you can put your money. I don't know. So the palette itself is super slim. It is like a matte texture cardboard. Again, it feels very high quality, but recyclable. It doesn't feel like it's a lot of wasted materials. Again, very minimal, very sleek. I really like that about this. The design is really beautiful. So when I first open it up, there is this sort of protective sheet, this frosted sheet over the mirror. But when you take that off, there is also a sticker on the mirror. So the mirror is well sort of protected. It's a really nice size mirror. I do like, not everyone likes mirrors in palettes. I quite like them. I quite like holding my makeup like this, like my palette, and doing my makeup at my desk. I think because I have really bad lighting in my house, I sort of look for the light and I will just do my makeup, and it's easier to hold a palette like this and use a mirror than to hold a mirror and put the palette on my lap. So I quite like using mirrors, and I like them to be a decent size and good quality, which this mirror is. Now, what's really interesting about this palette is that it is a sort of multi-purpose ombre palette. So you'll see that there's actually 6 pans, but there's 12 shades inside, and each of them ombre over to the other shade. That's an interesting move. It's very, very unique. I have seen this with face powders, so like bronzers, blushes, highlighters. I've seen ombre, but supposedly it's very rarely done or never done in eyeshadows, and was quite took a lot of time to create. And HINDASH actually had to sort of find someone that could develop a process to do this, because it's not a common thing to do with eyeshadows. So it's not as if he just like went to a manufacturer and said, I want an eyeshadow palette with these colors, make it, see you later. He had a vision and had to get them to work hard to create the vision, which I appreciate. There's a lot of passion behind this, which I love. So when I do look at this palette, I do definitely see that it's designed by someone that knows makeup, that knows faces, and is likely a makeup artist, because this is a full face of makeup, essentially colored makeup. You can see there's some highlight shades, different undertones. There's blush sort of shades. There's peachy pink, orangey red. There's a contour sort of pan, so like concrete gray to brown. There's a dark, rich sort of reddy chocolate brown to black. So you can see eyeliners, you can see brows, you can see contour, bronzer, highlighter, blush, and eyeshadow all in this, and that's what you can use it as. HINDASH did say that you can use these wet as well if you want to use them as liners, but just to make sure you don't wet the sort of packaging, because it can warp the cardboard, but you can definitely use the products wet, which is great. So this is beautiful as an eyeliner pan. So I'm going to use this all over my face, which is why I look quite pale, because I don't have any bronzer or blush on. So I'm going to use this all over my face today. I'm also going to swatch it and have a play with it and see how it applies. So if you were interested in buying this, I will have the website linked down below. It does ship internationally, and I'll also put some pricing information on the screen because I don't know it off the top of my head, but let's get on to swatches. All right, so I like to swatch over no primer. So this is just my bare arm. These feel super buttery to pick up. Really, really nice. I'm going to swatch these a little bit differently to how I normally swatch them because I've seen how HINDASH swatches them and they look really cool. So I want to try that. So I'm going to start with the shade Tan from the pan Tan Lines. And it's just a nice sort of, I don't know, peachy brown caramel color. Just going to pick up a little bit more. These aren't supposed to have any fallout, so you don't pick up heaps at one time, so you might need to build them a little bit, but that's Tan. Then I'm going in with the shade Lines, which is a pure white, so that sort of goes into that, and then you can see how they sort of mix, which I think is really cool. Again, you don't pick up heaps at a time, but you can see how sort of pure white this is. It's a really beautiful pigmented shade. Blends gorgeously. Look at that blend. It's like I didn't do anything and it just blended itself. But you do have to sort of build it up a little bit. All right, and I actually do have a description. So that is a soft tan brown that blends into a pure white. And of course, you've got multiple different combinations you can make by mixing the two. And then we're going on to wet paint, which is a beige that blends into a banana yellow. So that's the beige. Again, really, really smooth. Wow. It's like, I don't know, it makes it look like there's no texture whatsoever. Just going to put a little bit more on there, so build it up, gorgeous. And that's the banana yellow. Look how bold they are. So there we go, banana yellow. You can see that these can be like brightening colors. They can be sort of all over the lid colors. Then we've got the pan Boy Wonder. So Boy is a peach. Oh, whoa, that is so beautiful. These feel like super finely milled. If you think of like really, really finely milled powders, these are like eyeshadow versions, but they're not crumbly. There's no fallout. It's really beautiful. It's very unique. So Boy is a peach and Wonder is a bubblegum pink. So that blends into that, which is also gorgeous. Look at the pigmentation on that. But you can also build it up even more. Like it's gorgeous. And I love eyeshadows that sort of layer because you just have a bit more versatility and it's a little bit easier to use. These look gorgeous. Holy shit, I feel like I'm creating a photo shoot as we speak. All right, the next one is Feel Real. So Feel is a neutral brown, sorry. Oh, read that correctly, Kat. Neutral brown that blends into a concrete gray. So that's the brown. And here's the concrete gray. Oh my God, that... How did that look? You can see how they blend. So you just take a color and it just blends like seamlessly with the color next to it. That's gorgeous. I might build it up a tiny bit. You can see a little bit through to the skin. All right, let's build that up a little bit. These blend themselves. These are, this is what I expect from like a good makeup artist. Like products that blend themselves and are perfection. I'm so excited to use these. The next pan I'm super excited about. This is Love Kills. We've got a fiery orange, which is this shade here, which I love, that blends into a hot red. So that is, I'll put a little bit more on just because I feel like I stopped that a bit short. Hang on. This is so fun. Swatching things this way, I'm so, I don't know, I'm getting my jollies out of it. It's so fun. This red is phenomenal. I think it's such a beautiful red. Okay, let's blend it. Again, these are designed that you can get like full opacity, but you can also use them as blushes. So you do need to build them up a little bit to get the bold color, but look at that. Beautiful red, like fire engine red through to a beautiful orange. Really gorgeous. And you can see how you can probably mix the red with the pink or the peach to create your own custom blush, or you can tone it down with a yellow. These are designed to be mixed. They're not designed to be used just on their own. All right, the last pan, I don't want this to stop, but it's the last pan, is Intra Fatum. It's a chocolate brown that blends to a pitch black. So that's the chocolate brown there. Let's put that on. Oh, gorgeous brown. Gorgeous brown. Look at that. And the black. So from bottom to the top, black. Wow. Again, that just blends itself. And again, it's a little bit sheer at the moment. I can build it up. Oh, it's so beautiful. All right, so here we have the 10 shades, but of course you can see they're designed to be mixed. So you can have, you know, countless shades you can create with this palette, which is really cool. There is a photo, I think it's a marketing photo, where it shows that if you take different portions from this pan, you can get different tones of brown and grey. I'll put that on the screen, but it gives you an idea of the versatility. If you really want to go and use specific parts of the pan, there's a multitude of different shades that you can pick up from each pan. And I like to show you how they swatch, so what it's done to the pan. You can see I just rubbed my finger in it. I pretty much went and just rubbed my finger around maybe twice, and you can see there is no kick up, there is no fallout. It is a beautifully performing eyeshadow. It just stays put. There's no mess, there's no waste. So far it's beautiful. So I'm really impressed with this formula. I'm really impressed. Before I do start, I do want to mention that I'm using Rephr brushes today. So these are all going to be Rephr brushes. I'll mention them I'll have them listed in the description box. The only reason I'm using them today is because all my brushes are dirty. And I was gifted these through Hayley Works with Rephr. I don't have a code. I'm not pushing them. I'm not telling you to buy them. I don't have a discount. Check out Hayley's channel if you're interested in that. But I will list them in the description box because they're all the same brand. So I thought I'll just mention that. All right, so I'm going to start with face because that's how I usually do my makeup. People say do your eyes first. I always do my face first. And I always start with bronzer. So with this, I'm looking at maybe mixing that shade with a little bit of this shade to act as a bronzer. Maybe I'll go with tan to start with. I'm not sure how these apply. So I've got a little brush here. This is the number 4 brush. If I explain them, do I need to list them? Who cares? Whatever. Okay, it's a bit light. So I've just dabbed in a little bit of tan and Feel together, and I'm gonna just tap this off a little bit so I don't have too much, but let's just put this on. So it does blend very nicely. My base is kind of dry. I feel like at the moment, I don't know if I'm over powdering my face or if I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's just the turn of the weather, going into the cooler weather, but I am a little bit drier than normal, which is unusual because I do have my oily skin. Ooh, these give a bit of a glow to the skin, even though they're matte. Can you see how it catches the light? Like it's got a little bit of luminosity that this doesn't have. Do you see how this has it? So these are actually like matte, but sort of glowy, which is fun. So yeah, got a bit of bronzer going on. I don't put too much, just to sort of warm up my face a little bit. These definitely have a glow. Look at this versus that. And it's not like, you know, oh, they've got shimmer in it. It doesn't. It's purely matte, which just gives the skin like a healthy feel. All right, now I'm going in with a 19 brush, and I'm going in with a little bit of the peachy pink shade. I might try that on its own. Whoa, don't drop the palette. Just on its own. Oh, it is nicely pigmented. Okay, just on its own. Blend that. I'm going to mix it a little bit with Wet from Wet Paint just to make it a little bit lighter and blend into the skin a little bit nicer. I also want to note that these pans are big enough that it's quite easy to pick up the product without going into multiple shades. The thing is that you just need brushes that aren't like the massive brushes. If you bronze with brushes that are this big, you won't be able to do that. But if you have just a standard sort of face brush, it does work nicely. Oh, these are really pretty. On the same brush, I'm just taking a little bit of the white just to seeing if I can highlight a little bit. I'm not really into matte highlighting. I understand that it can sort of, you know, it works, but I do prefer a bit of a shine. So you can brighten the area, but it's not really how I would use this palette too much. All right, so my first impression on the face is that they do work really nicely as face products. They blend really nicely, and you can easily sort of just tap your brush in 2 shades. So I went with that one and that one for the bronzer, and you can definitely get some bronzer contour effect. Maybe I should contour. Hate contouring. Contouring looks bad on me. All right, before I finish the face, I'm going to dip into the shade a little bit just in the middle because I want to contour a little bit. I hate contouring, and contouring always makes me look like I've got a dirty face, but I'm going to do it because I'm curious. So I've dipped right in the middle of there to get that cool toned contour, and I'm really bad at contouring, so don't judge me. Just going to put a little bit, pretend I've got cheekbones. It doesn't really work for me because I have like double chin and like turkey neck, and it's like, we know you don't have cheekbones. We're aware of this. We're aware that you don't actually have them, so why pretend? All right, I've got a little bit of contouring going on, but again, not really my jam. I'm not good at it and I don't think it suits me. So let's move on to the eyes. I've already put some Painterly paint pot on about like 2 hours ago. So it's nice and set, but let's put some on. All right, I'm just going to start with the shade Wet just to sort of set my crease, just in case there is a little bit of stickiness, which I don't think there is. But I'm using a 16 brush for that. Then I'm going in with a little bit of tan, and I'm going to say this mirror is great. I'm using this mirror from the palette. I can see my whole eye area. I can see my mouth. I can see everything. So I can pretty much do almost my full face just using this mirror. Again, this is very light, but very blendable. Like, okay, again, ignore the fact that I've got some dermatitis on my eye that makes everything look lumpy and bumpy, but this is blending really sort of seamlessly and naturally. Admittedly, I'm pretty stumped. I'm not sure what to do with this look because I don't usually do all matte looks. I'm a little bit like, what do I do? I'm getting a little bit of feel, so it's the neutral brown. I'm just putting a little bit more sort of in the crease, but and onto the lid, I'm just sussing out, do I put it all over the lid? And the answer is yes, I'm doing it. Again, these apply beautifully. There's no fallout whatsoever. And again, they're not super pigmented when you first put them on, but I feel like you can just sort of build and build and build, which is how I like to deal with sort of darker and bolder colors anyway. I'm going in with the shade Love because I can't help myself. It is a beautiful orange, and again, it sort of just blends itself. I'll turn this brightness down a bit so hopefully you can see it a bit better. But it just sort of like, often you find mattes that sort of compete and they lift each other. So if you layer something over the top, it lifts what's underneath and it ends up looking patchy. This just sort of, yeah, blends itself. It layers perfectly. It's looking gorgeous. Oh, I love it. Hang on, that's too dark. All right, I've decided to just add a bit of a flick to that just to sort of shape the eye a little bit more. And now I want to go in with some of that red just to see how I can add that to the eye, just in the outer corner. I'm using the, what brush is it? 01 for both these shades. I think in this look particularly, the orange to the red is quite a very subtle gradient. I think you could really see the differences in the tones if you blended it out as like a blush or something, but packed on the eye, they do look quite similar, but the red does give a little bit of pop of vibrancy right in the corner. It's really pretty. On a 13 brush, I've just put a little bit of tan and feel. So again, those sort of two browns, just for the lower lash line. I want to just create a bit of a shadow there. These are so beautiful. They feel like they just do the work for you. I feel like this is what I want from makeup. Makeup that just looks good without much effort, without much fuss. You sort of feel like you know what you're doing, even though you might not know what you're doing. It just does the work for you. These are gorgeous. Oh my God. All right, I lied. They're not all Rephr brushes. This one's going to be the Sigma small eyeliner brush. Now, I did wet this slightly just to sort of put it back in shape because it's a little bit frayed. So there's a little bit of moisture on here. But I'm going in with the chocolate brown Intra shade in the bottom pan. And I'm just going to do a tiny wing. Again, this is not an eyeshadow that's wet. It's just that the brush is a little bit damp. So I'm picking up just a small amount just to shape the eye a little bit, but not to sort of add a bold wing, if that makes sense. So that was super easy to achieve. I am finding that, like, if you wanted a really sort of sharp line, you'd need to apply this wet, because what this wants to do is just sort of blend with the other shades, which is really beautiful. Like, it's quite, it looks fancy. It looks like it's just sort of blended into the eyeshadow. It's definitely distinct enough, but it looks like it works with the rest of the eyeshadow. I think this is such a beautiful formula. I'm obsessed. All right, I've just gone off and put a little bit of Urban Decay Double Life eyeliner on my waterline and some Maybelline the Falsies Lash Lift Mascara. So that's all I'm wearing today. I love this look. I'm obsessed with this palette so far. It is very easy and very like professional looking. Like I feel like this blend is probably one of the best blends I've ever done. And it's not because I'm great at blending. It's because the eyeshadows are great at blending. The color is like intense enough. I'm sure I could make it more intense, but it is intense enough to look vibrant, but also easy to wear. You can imagine blending it out and making like a soft orange effect. It sort of even minimizes a little bit of the look of my bumpy, shitty skin. I feel like this would be a beautiful formula on aging skin or skin problems. It is, mwah, I love it. I'll zoom out. All right, zoomed out, this looks even better on camera. I'm just gonna say it is like, the formula is outstanding. You know, you can see that it sculpts the face. It gives like a glow and a bit of life to the face, which is great. It blends so beautifully and effortlessly on the eye. When you hear brands that say it's an effortless blend, they're lying. Usually isn't. This is. I'm so far loving the formula of these. There was zero fallout. There was zero kick up in the pan. You can see the ones that I've used, they're just gone back to looking normal. The ones that I swatched and haven't put a brush over, they still look swatched, but otherwise it's like perfect. Like it's like the most dreamy, perfect matte formula ever. If you're the type of person that really wants that really bold, like you put your brush in and you pick up a whole amount of eyeshadow and you put on your eye and it's bold instantly, this is not for you. This is more of a subtle, buildable, just awesome formula that I love. I will definitely do more looks with this. So I've decided I might do maybe 3 looks. It might not be a full 1 week, 1 palette, but I do definitely want to play with other shades. I want to do a smoky eye. I want to sort of see where I can take this. I'm loving the formula, if you can't tell. All right, I'm back with look number 2. I'm not wearing this palette on my face just because I sort of feel like, and I'll talk about this when I conclude my review of this, I sort of feel like these are wasted on my face. Like yeah. I'll talk about it a bit later on. I've just got them on my eyes and my Project Pan stuff on my face. And the shades that I used today, like nothing crazy. I sort of wanted to delve a little bit into the pink. I don't like pink eyeshadow, so I probably would use that as a blush. I don't like pink blush either. Probably use the peach side as a blush, but pink is not my kind of jam. I used the same paint pot as yesterday, but because I put the eyeshadows on like the fresh sort of tacky paint pot, I set it with this pan here. I sort of just went in with a few. And then I wanted to go in with the peach. So I put that on the eye and sort of put it all over the lid, blended it out, put a bit of pink on the lower lash line and in the outer corner. And it was looking way too pink. I don't like pink. It is what it is. So I went ham with the gray and I just sort of covered a lot of it with the gray. So it's like this hazy gray pink matte look. I'll zoom in so you can see what I'm talking about. So you can see that it's a mix of grey and pink. So one thing I love about this palette is that the colours, since they are designed to be mixed, they do layer nicely over each other, but they do mix really well. So you can sort of custom make your shades. Again, like I said yesterday, you don't layer one over the other and it sort of lifts, which a lot of sort of badly formulated mattes do. You lay them on top and they sort of lift and make the bottom shade patchy. These just blend nicely together and I sort of customize this sort of pinky gray color, which I really like. So I don't know if I'll turn the brightness down a little bit so you can see it a bit more, but more on the lid is the gray, more in the crease is the pink, and it's pink and gray on the lower lash line too. Oh, and I put a little bit of white in the inner corner just to brighten the area a little bit. So you can see that that's a little bit of a highlight just popped in there. All right, we're on to look number 3, and I decided to do that sort of smoky eye thing going on. It's Beauty News filming day, so I thought I'd go something a little bit more dramatic. And from doing this, I've learned some stuff about this palette that I do really like. Firstly, I thought, look, I'll change my brushes up. I won't use Rephr brushes because if they happen to be things that make this blend particularly well, I don't want to wrongly attribute the blendability of these eyeshadows to the brushes. So I used just basic synthetic brushes and it blended really, really nicely. I did use mainly the browns and the sort of grey and black. So I'm using the same Painterly paint pot. I set it with sort of this shade here. Then I went in and I mixed this brown with some of this sort of yellow color just to blend the brown to start the sort of fade, blend the brown in the crease. Then I went in with that shade mixed with the brown into the crease and on the lid. So to start building up that darker brown. I also did that on the lower lash line. So I started with the brown and then I went in with the gray. So that sort of cement gray, tapped it all over the lid to add some coolness. And then I went in with the black and the gray mixed just to sort of deepen it a little bit in areas that I wanted to. And then I used the black shade Wet to create a bit of a winged liner. So this was surprisingly easy to achieve. I don't mind the look of sort of brown smoky eyes, like all matte brown cool tone smoky eyes, but I find that half the time when I do them, they don't work out how I want them to work out, because often these days brands just like to put so much pigment in their eyeshadows that they sort of overwhelm the look, and you can go really dark really fast. It can blend patchy, it can sort of flake down your face. So I don't do these types of looks too often because I find the eyeshadows kind of hard to control, whereas these were really, really easy to control. So hopefully you can see that mainly what I did was put the brown mixed with the gray and sort of the black on the lid, so to make more of a cooler tone, and then I sort of diffused it with the warmer, sort of more neutral browns, just to give it a little bit of warmth. So I find that that's the best way I can wear a smoky eye without it making it look too like a black eye. I find the brown around it really helps. It is a really nice smooth blend. You can probably see it more on this eye. On this eye I have, of course, the dermatitis, and I've got a little bit here as well that mucks up and makes things look bumpy, but hopefully you can see that it is, I think, a quite successful matte brown cool toned smoky eye. All right, so last quick look using the HINDASH Beautopsy Palette, and then I'll conclude what I think about this, because I do have thoughts on it. I do have pros and cons. I do have what I want to see from the brand. So I'll do that after I describe this look. It's not a very exciting look. I wanted to mix this palette with a shimmer, so I wanted to see how I would sort of use it on a daily basis, incorporating, again, shimmers. So I put a bronze shimmer all over the lid, and then what I essentially did was mixed a lot of shades, because this palette is just so, yeah, it's just so easy to mix, and it encourages you to mix, and it's just sort of second nature to dip your brush in different pans to mix different shades and customize shades, which I love about this. That's what I think is fantastic about this palette. So I started with this sort of tan shade here, just in the crease, and then I ended up deepening it, mixing these two shades. So I made a sort of rosy brown, and then I sort of deepened the outer corner using these two browns. So I mixed them together. So it's mainly browns with a little bit of peach, and all I did was sort of diffuse the look, deepen the crease a little bit, run the shade along the lower lash line, because I didn't put any shimmer down there. It's just the matte, I believe. I didn't actually take the shimmer on the lower lash line. I just took the browns, and then I took a champagne gold shade and just popped it in the inner corner for a bit of brightness. So that's all I've done. It's very basic. It's sort of my everyday makeup. So here's a look close up, and you can just see that I've got the bronze on the lid, a little bit of brightness with that champagne. I ran the champagne a little bit on the lower lash line as well. You can see how nicely these mattes blend to blend out the look and complete the look. But yeah, it's just your basic brown shimmery eyeshadow look. All right, time to conclude what I think about the Beautopsy palette. There's a lot that I think about it, a lot. So I should have made notes so I'm not so jumbled, but I'll, try pros and cons and just general points that aren't pros or cons, they're just observations. I'll start with pros because I think there's a lot of pros about this palette. Firstly, I love the formula. I think the formula is hands down one of the best matte formulas I've ever tried. Often I find that mattes that are really blendable and beautiful on the skin, they have a lot of kick up in the pan, they have a lot of mess, you often get it like raining down your face with fallout, whereas these are blendable, buildable, mixable, and they just blend themselves on the eye. They're the most flattering mattes, but they're not messy mattes. Because the formula doesn't have a lot of kick up in the pan, it makes you want to mix them, because you can dip your brush in the white and go over to the black or vice versa and not worry about messing up the pans. Originally, I thought that because these are ombre and you get like the different shades and you can pick sort of different shades in the pan, that's what will make these sort of most sort of versatile with color mixing. But it is hands down the formula. It's so easy to just jump from one pan to the other and mix around because the formula allows it. The pan size is a nice size, so you can put, a face brush, you can put an eyeshadow brush. It's really, really great. Also, the formula mixes well together. I've tried mixing mattes in the past with other eyeshadow formulas, and sometimes they don't mix together well. They don't create a seamless new shade. They sort of have patchiness of different colors, and it makes mixing quite hard to do. Also, I've come across eyeshadows that once you sort of put an eyeshadow down and you layer another shade on top, it picks up the underneath shade and they sort of fight against each other. So those are the types of formulas that don't mix well together. These mix seamlessly together. They layer seamlessly over each other. So if you wanted to lay down, for example, the red and add a little bit of black, you can do that. Also, the fact that these are light in pigmentation but buildable means they're super, super easy to control. If you wanted to use the black to do a full smoky eye, start really soft and then build up certain areas to make it more intense black, you can do this with this formulation. I know that's not everyone's cup of tea. Some people like the most pigmented eyeshadows in the world. And I generally like really pigmented shimmers, but when it comes to mattes, especially dark mattes or bright mattes, I do like the ability to start light and building it up. So if you do like the really pigmented, bold eyeshadows that you just have to dip your brush in, put on your eye, and it's super pigmented, you will not like this formula whatsoever. But if you do like the gradual building and you do want a bit more versatility and to be a little bit easier to play with without like putting a whole bunch of pigment on your eye and then having to deal with the repercussions of that, like how do I blend this out? How do I make it work? This is a lot more user-friendly in my opinion. And again, like I said, they just blend themselves. So even if you're not good at blending like me, these sweep on the eye and blend nicely together without over blending. I've also tried eyeshadows in the past that blend so beautifully that when you put them on the eye, they almost muddy together and blend together and they're not distinct colors. This, you can definitely get the distinct colors, but at the same time, you can layer them and blend them really well. So they don't just sort of spread everywhere and make this muddy sort of haze of brown. You can actually get distinct colors on there. So it's really, really nice. Also, the fact that these are sheer and buildable means you can use them on the face. So you can use them face, eyebrows, eyes, wherever you want to use them. And I think that makes this a really unique palette. So just for me personally, I would rave about this because of the blendability and how easy this made smoky eyes, how easy this made blending mattes. Usually I'm not a big fan of all matte looks because I find that they can look quite dark, quite muddy, kind of quite patchy, whereas this like sort of has converted me into embracing all matte looks again because these just look flawless. So I was concerned that this was going to be like a pro palette that is only suited to makeup artists and that your everyday consumer will find this challenging because they're like the whole point of it is to mix and to sort of multi-use the powders. But using them and seeing how easy they are to use and how like sort of intuitive it is to want to mix in the pan, I think this is fantastic for your everyday consumer and fantastic for even beginners who just want a good eyeshadow that applies in a nice flattering way. You know, you can subtly build up, you can do whatever you want with it. I think this is a really fantastic makeup artist, I should hold it up the right way, makeup artist and consumer palette, which is really fantastic. All right, on to negatives, and probably the main negative that I think people could say is that this is a pretty pricey eyeshadow palette and it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but it is a higher sort of, you know, it's a makeup artist brand and the quality is there. I think it is worth the price tag, and compared to other matte eyeshadow palettes on the market, it is definitely, the formula is definitely worth the money. So I'm happy to spend money for quality. Some people aren't. So I think it's worth it, but you're going to have to love matte eyeshadows to want to spend the money on it. I think one personal con for me is that I actually prefer these as eyeshadows rather than face products. They work well on the face, but I found that I just feel like they're better as eyeshadows, if that makes sense. To me, these are standout eyeshadows, but they're not standout matte bronzers and blushes or powder highlighters. I think they're fine and they're nice, but I definitely think this shines as an eyeshadow palette. So if you were to buy this and you're like, I want to use it all over my face every single day, eyes and face, you can totally do that. But I do think it stands out as being good value for money for an eyeshadow. For the face, I was just like, yeah, they're all right. Also, I just want to mention that if you were to use this as an all over face palette, you will go through some of these shades like lightning fast. This year alone, and we're only in April, like towards late April, I've hit pan on 2 bronzers. They were smaller bronzers in palettes, but I would hit pan, if I was to use this as a bronzer, even mixing it with this, I would hit pan on it in probably like 3 or 4 weeks. So that's another downside to this, is if you were to use it as a full face palette, you will start noticing that you use it up really, really fast. And I think if you did that, I don't feel like it's worth the money, because you would go through it, yeah, ridiculously fast. And that sort of leads me on to some things that I would love to see HINDASH do in the future. So I would love to see a refillable pan palette. So if you do want to use this all over your face, you can refill that pan, or you can refill this pan, because there are going to be shades that, because you're just putting it in large areas, you use them up so fast. And if you love, love, love this palette, you don't want to have to repurchase a new palette every time you've used up a shade, it would be really good to see refillable pans. That also leads into probably customizable palettes. I'd love to see HINDASH bring out like a palette that you can pick your own shades. So if he had a variety of different sort of blush shades, bronzer shades, eyeshadow shades, highlighter shades, of course you can use them wherever you want to use them, but you could customize your own palette to your coloring. So for example, if I was to do that, I probably wouldn't pick the pink. I don't like pink on my eyes or my cheeks. I probably wouldn't pick like the banana powder. So I feel like if he brought out a variety of different single pans, like ombre pans, which I love the ombre, by the way. I don't think I get as much versatility out of the ombre like that sort of swatch photo showed. I feel like that is a really nuanced way to pick up the product, and I feel like professionals will get like all the nuances. Your everyday consumer maybe gets 3 colors out of a pan, so this and sort of in between. You'd really need a small brush to really pinpoint certain areas to get that variety of color. So even though I love the ombre, I think it looks really cool, I don't think the claims of, you know, you can get like 10 shades in one pan, technically you can, but I think your everyday consumer won't. I think you'll probably get maximum 3, at best like 4. But yeah, I'd really love to see HINDASH bring out things like all orange palettes, like ombre palettes, purpley ones, yellowy ones, like all different colors of blushes. And then you can go to all different tones of bronzers and then have different eyeshadows. Like I'd love to see this expanded and like a create your own perfect palette. I think that would be like so good and definitely worth the price tag, because my qualms about this is just like all the colors don't really suit the way I do my makeup, which is fine. Like it's fine. But HINDASH has done such a great job with formulating these, the innovation and just the thought process behind it. I can totally understand where he's coming from, and it's paid off. The work he's put into it has paid off. The formulation is fantastic. The format is fantastic. I can't wait to see what he brings out next. So I would love to see different finishes. So I'd love to see, of course, more shades of the matte, but I'd love to see satins. I'd love to see shimmers. I'd love to see foils. I'd love to see what HINDASH brings to the table, because if this is what he does to mattes, I can't wait to see what he does to shimmers and other formulas. All right, so that's my review of the HINDASH Beautopsy Palette. I love this. I'm going to be rocking a lot more matte looks because these are so easy to use. Usually I find that matte's patchy and annoying and difficult. These they glide on, they're so easy, they're super flattering. So you'll be seeing more matte looks on my face very, very soon. So I want to give a massive shout out to HINDASH for sending this to me. I really appreciate it. I'm shocked that he watches beauty news. It's crazy. And congratulations on such a well thought out and well formulated palette. I'm not usually surprised by makeup, but this was such a beautiful surprise. So congratulations. Anyway, guys, I'm gonna go. And yes, I cut my own fringe and it's horrible, but that's what you do sometimes. At least that's what I do. So I'll see you guys in the next one, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.